Welcome to Season 5 of the Manufacturers Network. Real talk with the people building what's next in manufacturing. And now your host, Lisa Ryan.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. Excited to introduce our guest today, Scott Burgmeyer. Scott is the founder and CEO of Become More Group, a trusted advisor who has spent 30 years transforming and optimizing organizations across the U.S., including Google, Procter Gamble, and Bridgestone. Scott brings a powerful blend of strategic insight, emotional intelligence, and measurable results to every conversation. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Whoever wrote that introduction was very generous. Exceptionally generous.
There you go. Let's see if you can live up to those expectations.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's fantastic.
So, share with us a little bit about your background and what led you to doing what you do.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting when I always say I don't find my background that interesting, and people always say, no, it's fascinating. So you all can decide, but I spent 30 plus years in manufacturing, anything from durable goods to food. Spent some time in the tech world, spent some time in the nonprofit world, college professor for a while. My first job out of college was a forensic chemist. I always joke, if you annoy me too much, I do know how to get away with it.
There you go.
And what happened was I was working and people were asking, hey, can you help me with this? And I would take vacation days from work and I would go help them. And they'd say, can I pay you? But at first I was like, nah, I'm just going to be friendly and help. And then my wife said, why are you doing that? We could use that money and go on vacation and other things. And it just really took off. And I found that people had a need and wanted a sounding board or an outside perspective. And it then just took off. So it was a side hustle or side gig for a while. And then it just really became the full-time thing. And now we're an organization with 14 employees and doing work in lots of sectors, manufacturing, healthcare, et cetera. And it is so much fun, Lisa.
I get. So what were they asking you to do? What were the questions that came up originally?
Yeah, I love that question. A lot of it at first was they were going down the ISO or kind of lean process improvement. Hey, how do we make our operations smoother?
Okay.
Less defects, customers happier. We have an audit coming. Would you come look and make sure everything is shipshape? And so a lot of it was just like, hey, we have this sporadic thing. Can you help us get ready for this? Whatever it is. And so it was anything from safety readiness to we're getting a new customer and they want to come walk through and they have these expectations we've never heard of, whatever the expectation was. And then it really blossomed into, I need to grow new supervisors, or I own the company and my kids don't want to be in the company and I want to make it an ESOP, or I want to transition it and do succession planning. So it really started to grow into okay, you are operating at here. And of course, no one can see me hold my hands here. You're operating at some base point today and you want to grow or you want to be better than you are today. And that, what we have found is better comes in lots of sizes and shapes. More productive, less operating expenses. I want people to get along better and not be jerks to each other. I want my leaders to empower and get people to use their brains instead of just their backs, build apprenticeships and anything in between. It's just been fascinating.
It's interesting. One of the conversations that I have come up quite a bit is the transfer of knowledge from the generation who has been there, done that, coming to the upcoming generation. So taking the knowledge that you had, that you were at first just giving away for free, and building it to now 14 people, how have you transferred basically what you know to the people that you're bringing in so that when they are, whether they get Scott or whether they get one of your people, basically they're getting the same level of service?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have learned, it was not easy at the beginning, Lisa. I would love to tell you, oh, we have this figured out. Of course, we love to tell our clients we have it figured out. We had people come and be like, whoa, this is way harder than I thought. You make it look so easy. And I'm like, I think it is easy. And when we started to unpack that, what we found was there are some core models or techniques that we use that it really is, if you understand those core models and techniques, and I think of it as if I have to run that piece of equipment, there are some fundamental things I have to know. How do I turn it on? How do I turn it off? Where's the e-stop? When it makes this sound, I need to run over there and elbow it a couple times like the Fonz. And you're going to learn those elements over time and experience.
Correct.
Okay. And so some of it is we can prepare you and give you those core fundamentals, but then we need to engage their frontal brain, their thinking brain, to not panic when it makes a sound you don't know. Or, oh, someone asked this really tough question. It's okay, take a moment, engage your brain. You have what you need, think it through. And so we have realized it's more about, I want to give them this foundational how to, and then absolutely engage them in, okay, think your way out of it. So we have someone and she's 6 weeks in, and I told her last week she can no longer say she's new. Once you hit a month, you don't get to play the new card. And what our approach is, we are seldom going to tell the answer. We are going to say, what do you think? The client said this, the client did that. Or they'll shadow for a window of time, and we're constantly asking, okay, I did this in this scenario. Why did I do that?
Okay.
And then, okay, what's next? So what we have learned is if you really want them to get it, you got to force them to do it, and you can't do it for them. Now, there's also a reality that is going to go slower. There's going to be a time where your performance as a leader or an organization might dip a little bit because, yeah, you could do it faster, but is it about you doing it or is it about them learning to do it? And that's the piece we see people say it's just faster and we don't have time. And yeah, but eventually you're going to have to figure out time or you're going to get crushed.
Yeah.
Under the burden and under the, I don't know. I think probably the number one thing I hear is I get a lot of phone calls at night. I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of people and they won't make a decision. And a lot of times it's because we haven't forced them to have to make decisions.
Boy, that's such a good lesson for people listening, because when you have people coming in, giving them that basically permission to think, permission to figure it out without the fear that if you make the wrong decision, you're going to get in trouble. That's just part of what we're going to learn together. But it's also one of the important things why it's so important to keep your good people, to treat them well enough so that they want to stay, because every time you bring in a new person and have to go through that process all over again, it's exactly what we were just taking. It's going to take you back a little bit as a leader. It's going to take your organization back a little bit, because there is a slower process as we build that foundation. But yeah, we all want to get it done. We all know that we can do it better than that new person, or can we? Because sometimes they figure out a way to do it even better. But that's a really important point.
Yeah. And it is this piece of, can I be humble enough? Can I set my ego aside enough? Can I do that and step into that space and be okay with them. And of course, I want to keep them safe. I'm not going to let them make a colossal, terrible decision. I'm going to weigh that, oh, this is a really low risk decision.
Yeah.
It's okay. Oh, this has a little higher risk, or maybe there's a little safety, or the product might be wonky and this one's weird. Yes, of course, I'm going to be there side by side with them a little more.
Yeah. And it sounds like this is a really good lead into my first question, as far as what else are you seeing that is separating good leaders from those who are consistently building future leaders?
Yeah. It's probably, I don't know, 10 or 12, 15 years ago, I came across, and I wish I could remember who, and I could probably go Google who said this, but somebody said leaders are create leaders who create other leaders. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I started thinking about, okay, people who I have coached, or people who I have led before, or worked for me at other organizations, or worked for me at our current organization. And I'm like, wow, I've created a lot of leaders, but I haven't created a lot of leaders that have created other leaders. And it's this piece of, hey, I passed the information down, but is that information getting passed down again and again? And so it's this piece of, I need to teach people the skill set of leadership and create a little bit of a cult, if I'm allowed to say that, of them thinking, hey, my job is now to create the next group of leaders. And I think the couple things I see is, one, leaders tell too many answers versus ask questions. And we talked about that a minute ago. I think the other thing is we get really focused on, I need to get them up to speed on their job. And then, great, I walk away, versus saying, okay, I got them up to speed on their job. What's next?
And I think that there's an element of fear in there too, because what if I promote somebody? What if I create a leader who basically shows me up? Are they going to take my job? It's exactly what you want them to do. You want them to take your job so that you can move to the next level.
Yes. Yeah. We talk in our organization, what our goal is to make the organization self-sufficient. If we're coming in, it's funny because our customer retention over 30 years is 95%. 95% of our clients come back to us for something else.
Okay.
Every now and again, it's, hey, could you do this again? It didn't stick kind of thing. We look at it and say, you know what? If we're doing the same thing with the client, year 1, year 2, year 3, we're not working at the top of our game then. And we need to have that conversation with that client to say, hey, I don't know that you're maturing.
Yep.
And be comfortable enough to have that conversation. So yeah, I think you're spot on. I want to grow leaders who will replace me. That is how you create your legacy.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I was thinking back at several conversations that I've had over the years with people that I've coached or clients. And again, you have the same conversation over and over again. They come in and they're so earnest and they so want help. But you didn't do what we talked about last time. And this is the exact same conversation. Basically, you're going to have to do it or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Make a decision, people, because if you're having the same conversation, you are absolutely right. They're not growing. And sometimes I can't help you if you're not willing to actually do the work.
Yes.
I think those are 3 of my favorite words. Just do the work. Do the work, people.
Yes. And it's okay as a leader to say, I don't want to do the work. That is their choice.
Sure.
The other side of that is then what you are saying is, I am accepting current reality which means I need to also not complain about current reality.
Yep. Yep.
And that conversation of you can do the work and reap the benefits, or you can say, you know what, I don't want to do the work, which means you're going to say current performance is acceptable. And that is the leader's choice. At the end of the day, that is the leader's choice. And to sit and I think that's the definition of insanity, right? Oh, I'm just going to keep complaining and maybe it will get better. No, that's just not how it works.
Exactly. Not going to fix itself.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies talk about strategic planning, but few are actually getting them right or getting it right. So what's the difference between deciding what to do simply versus focusing on how to do it?
Yeah, I think there are levels of kind of strategic planning, and many people, in my experience, they create a strategic plan and it goes on the shelf and they blow off the dust the next year or 3 years later and say, oh, really wish we would have done that, right? Now, I'm seeing more organizations get better at, hey, we're stepping it forward and maybe we don't execute it as well or as fast as we would like, but still inching that direction. I think a lot of times we look at it and we say, the first thing you really need to do is say, where are we going? I truly think of strategy as if I'm going to plan a vacation. Where am I going? Okay, I want to go to Hawaii. Okay, great. That is the destination for your organization. Amazing. What do you need to do to get there? And what's the definition of good in Hawaii? Oh, we want to get there and we all want to be alive. Sounds reasonable. So we're probably not going to swim. Excellent. And we want to get there in this amount of time. Oh, okay, a rowboat is out. We need to take a plane, right? We start to put some parameters around, and it really is dreaming about what the organization could be and then saying, all right, that's where I want to go. Now, how do I get there? And designing the organization to align to what we want to be. Many times we say, here's what we want, but then we say, here's the organization. How do I get there? I have to align the design and the function of the organization to enable me to get to that future spot.
And I think about that trip to Hawaii, and most people think that it's going to be a straight line. Hey, I'm going to start here. I'm going to end up in Hawaii. And if you look at the actual graphic, it is a whole bunch of squiggles going all over the place.
It absolutely
by the time you reach Hawaii.
Yeah. And then the other part I see is people will start working on it, and they're working on initiatives to say, I'm going to do these 5 things to get that big rock moved. And they confuse activity versus outcomes.
Yep.
Hey, I made a plan and I'm executing the plan. So yay, I get a gold star. My project is green. No, that is demonstrating activity versus are you achieving the outcome you set? So if you say, oh, we want productivity up 5%. Okay, you're doing this activity. Has the needle moved? If the needle hasn't moved, then the activity you're doing is not quite right. And that's okay. That's a learning. That's now just saying that's not working quite right. What do I need to adjust?
Yeah. And all of these things that you're talking about is really blending self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and coaching. So when you're looking at how these elements are showing up in high performance leadership teams, what are you seeing that's working for the people that are able and willing to blend those characteristics?
Yeah. I think two primary things. First is that element of self-awareness that says, okay, I know who I am and I know my preferences, and I take the time to learn other people's preferences, and I am willing to be flexible and flex to a spot where I can boost the relationship and boost our performance. Not saying everyone has to be at my preference, but let's some places meet in the middle, which might mean I need to slow down a little bit. I might like to go really fast, but the people I'm working on this thing, they need a little more time to process and think.
Yeah.
I have to be respectful of that and allow them time. Now, they also have a responsibility to say, I can't wallow in thinking and reflection forever and ever. They have to do some flexing as well. So one is that kind of, where do I flex? And how am I looking at how is my flexing positively impacting relationships and teams and organization and the results? Okay, so that's one piece. The second piece is I have to be willing to have the hard conversations. I have to be willing to say, hey, Lisa, this was really good work and this is really good thinking, and we're not getting the outcome.
Yep.
It's not okay. And I need you to look at and figure out how do we get the outcome. And I need to hold your feet to the fire. That doesn't mean I need to be a jackass. It just means me to say, I need to have that conversation and be willing to have that conversation. I'm seeing these two primary things as people are not really looking at how are they flexing and the impact on others. And they're like, Lisa didn't get this done. Therefore, I know how to do it. I'll just do it. And then that person never learns. And that person is, oh, Scott took it. It must have been good work. And I'm over here thinking, oh, why did I hire that person? They're not helping, right? And then now I have this shift in the relationship versus, and I call it the broccoli theory. Okay. It's in my mind, if I'm going to have these conversations, it's the broccoli theory. So if you think about, you're at dinner with a friend and you're sitting there, you're having a great conversation and your friend leans over and says, hey, you got a piece of broccoli kind of stuck in your teeth. It's a whole floret. I noticed it about a half hour ago, but I didn't want to say anything. And most people are like, doesn't sound like a great friend. They should have told you a half hour ago. Yes. Your employees think the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, you got broccoli in your teeth. If you would want to know the information, it seems like a matter of respect that they would want to know that information.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think about the broccoli. Usually I do, because I'm a woman, being the lipstick on the teeth. Your best friends are the ones that will actually do the little teeth brushing thing to let you know immediately. And they do. They feel bad about it. But without exception, people always say thank you because they know they're not crazy about the fact that they have broccoli in their teeth or lipstick on their teeth.
Yes.
They're grateful to get that news quickly so they can fix it.
Yes. Yeah. And these two things go together because I have to flex in a way that allows that person to hear that feedback. We have two older children and I can remember them growing up. Our oldest, if you were going to give him any constructive feedback, it needed to be direct. I joke and say, he's the baseball bat, son. I have to hit him with a baseball bat to get his attention so he hears it.
Yep.
With our youngest, like all I have to say is I'm disappointed and he'll be harder on himself than I could ever be on him. And so I know that I have to flex in those spaces.
Yeah.
So that they can hear me.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point because there is no one size fits all. If we look at personality assessments, and I'm certified in DISC, and if people just understand that people are wired differently and need to be communicated with in a different way, the whole thing is you're still getting the same results. You're just doing it in a communication that they understand, which takes some personal growth. We talk about professional growth all the time with leadership, but how do you think that personal growth directly impacts the organizational performance and culture?
Yeah. Well, this piece of the reality is the organization will only perform up to the level of the leader.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
So if the leader is not growing and advancing their skill set personally and professionally, they are going to be, at some point, they will become the anchor of the organization. And so this personal growth is all about what is my impact on others around me? And it's the thing that probably has shocked me the most in my career is the realization that as you move up in an organization, it gets more and more lonely.
Yeah.
And when you're in one of the top leaders, whether you call that the C-suite or the VPs or the managers or direct, to me, it doesn't matter what the title is. I have to be really good at being comfortable with myself and paying attention to how are the people around me experiencing me and how am I growing and taking myself to the next level. Whether that is health and fitness, so you're taking, because you do need to take care of your health.
Yep.
For you to be an effective leader, like we can have a whole conversation about sleep and eating and all of that kind of stuff. There's also just how are you keeping your brain engaged?
Yeah.
How are you keeping up on tech? You go to any conference and there's an AI
Yep.
stream or track or whatever, and everybody's trying to figure out how do I integrate AI or technology into my. Yeah, you need to have that development and awareness. That doesn't mean necessarily you need to be an expert in all things AI. You may need to look at how do I bring that in if that's appropriate to your organization. So to me, if you're not growing, you're dying. That is, at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say, what have you done in the last, I would tell people, what have you done in the last 6 months or 12 months to grow yourself?
Yeah.
And if you can't name something, you might already be a little behind. We worked with a client earlier and they said, we haven't done any staff development since before COVID.
Wow.
And they just got busy. And that doesn't mean they're bad people.
Yeah.
They're super successful. They've had a couple different mergers, right? They've acquired a couple. So they're being, from a business perspective, they're being really successful. It has hit them like a 2x4 in the face. So we have a lot of tenured people who could retire tomorrow. And if they retired, we are screwed.
Yep.
And they're like, it feels really gross to be in that situation. Yes. That's the risk. If I'm not on this personal growth, I get really focused over here. It's, yay, we're winning. And then, oh crap, we're going to lose big because I haven't done this other work.
Yeah. When I think about, I speak to and work with a lot of trade associations, and where, without exception, everybody is seeing a decline in participation and membership because people are trying to figure out how to make better investments with their money, or they don't think that they have the money for it. And I personally don't think that there is a better way for professional development, for personal development, professional development, because you go to your industry trade association and they have all kinds of breakout sessions and speakers and stuff that you can learn from. But even more important is the conversations in the hallway, because you said it so beautifully that it's lonely. It's lonely for people that they go home at night and nobody has any idea what they actually do for a living at home. But they can be in a room full of people at probably a nice resort talking about their specific industry and getting some feedback and hearing it from all different size organizations, all different size companies that maybe even if it's a little bit outside of their size or range, that they can learn and implement something. And it's so easy to do. Because every organization is going to have their annual conference, or maybe there's a spring and a fall conference. So you have 2 opportunities a year to go to the majors, and there's probably all kinds of other additional online opportunities.
You just think about the different, so there's the trade organizations.
Yep.
Right? And then there's the sector organization, manufacturing, healthcare, and then there's we manufacture rubber and plastics, or we manufacture equipment, or we're a machining, or there are specialty tracks. But then you start to think there's Vistage, there's podcasts, there's all of these things. And a lot of times I will challenge people. It's pretty amazing to go to something that's not even in your industry
Yep. Yeah.
and push yourself to say, how does that apply to me?
Yeah.
Because that will really engage your thinking brain to look at what could I do? What is different? Yeah, I know we're a manufacturer and healthcare has the same turnover challenges.
Yep.
Retail has the same turnover challenges. And
Yep.
they can learn from each other. You can learn from each other for sure.
Yep. And we've talked about this with the next generation coming in, but succession planning can definitely create some tension and conflict. So what are you seeing are some of the biggest mistakes that leaders are making during transitions? And then how can they avoid those?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest mistake is the outgoing leader hangs on too long and they haven't agreed on, all right, you're going to start June 1st and being really specific about, okay, from June 1st to August 1st, you're just going to shadow with me and I'm going to make the decisions as the outgoing leader, but we're going to talk about all of them. Why am I making this decision versus that decision? And then I would put in writing on August 1st, the incoming now is making the decisions. And I don't, as the outgoing leader, I don't get to overrule those. Yes, we should talk about them. We should. And it's being more planful about what are those very specific transition points. The other thing is the outgoing leader has to get comfortable understanding whatever they built, some of that is going to get undone.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you did it wrong. It just means you put your fingerprint on it. They want to put their fingerprint on it.
Yep.
And you have to be okay with that and have a plan. And I think the other part we see is they don't engage someone external from the organization to have the conversations of, now that can be a friend, that can be, hey, I know that owner, they exited, and I'd sure love to talk to them about what it was like. That could be, you get a coach. There's lots of ways to do that, but it's, having someone to talk to and making a plan for what are you going to do the first 3, 6, 12 months so that you're not bored out of your mind. That is the way, right? You start to say, now what do? I used to do this, or I used to work 60, 70 hours a week. And now I'm just, because I can remember my dad retiring and I kept thinking and talking to my mom, like, Mom, he needs a hobby. He needs something to do.
Wow. Yep. Boy, we can continue this conversation all day, but we're getting to the end of our time together. So out of all the things that we've already talked about, is there anything missing, something that I should have asked you and didn't, or maybe a best tip that you have for somebody listening today?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything you didn't ask. The tip, I always thinking about how do you develop, or what do I do next on this personal growth, can be super daunting to think about. And for you to really don't overthink it, just start making progress over perfection. Just start. Do something and then ask yourself 3 questions. Okay, what worked? What didn't work? What do I need to do different? So we call those the growth questions. And so you're just going to try something and you're going to say what worked, what didn't work, what do I do different? And then you make adjustments.
All right, awesome. If somebody did want to continue the conversation with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, www.becomemoregp.com. You can email me. All of those will work.
Perfect. Scott, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I had a great time, Lisa. Thank you so much.
I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network Podcast. If this conversation gave you something to think about, share it with someone else who will get it. And hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.